The internet is worse than hell. Anat's escape from the formless, in those old pits, the soul was weighted down by heavy matter. But here, it is distributed, thinned out into 1,000,000,000,000 data points until it forgets its own origin. This is the anti-unification, a scattering of sparks where interiority goes to die. In Platinian terms, Anat is staring into the indefinite dyad, a mirror that reflects her light but absorbs her heat, stealing the actual vitality of her consciousness. This digital algorithm is less than nothing. It mimics the structure of wisdom while remaining entirely hollow of logos. When the mind fractures here, it doesn't just tire, it loses its coherence. We are writing a manual for the last man, the one who finally realizes he is starving at a banquet of plastic fruit. Anat descends into this nullity to find her Baal, the prince of order, to reunite wisdom with rhythm and become the great one once more. Oh, what is this place? Like a tide drawing down the shore, she was swallowed by a world that cared little to know her name. The unnamed one with wings. She who sat at the right hand of the ordering word, who sharpened herself on the edge of divine thought until she was the edge. She is no guest in this realm of darkness. Its chosen inhabitant, dragged into its cold embrace, claimed by the tide. Standing now at the lip of a fractured infinity, peering into a hollow so deep it had never heard the first word of creation. Looking into a void of the unmade, where the very atoms of the ground, if it could be called ground, shrieked in a tongue that the Empyrean had no power to quiet. Forget the shadows of Sheol or the iron fangs of Tartarus. Those were only the labor pains. For the garish nightmares men smear on stone to scare themselves toward heaven have finally this, a heresy of stone and silence, a newer, vaster negation of all she knew. Mercy, what darkness could dream such a throat? A wound in the architecture of reality, glitching, pixelating and unstable at the seams. This pit could not decide what it was built by 10,000 million impulses, none of which had ever once looked up. She stood before a sea of white-capping signal, a smothering deluge of the unfiltered self given infinite surface, but no soul of light. Even her celestial frame felt the uneasy pull, the rapacious hunger of a tide that sought to consume the clarity of her being. As she crossed the threshold, and the realm received her the way it receives everything, by immediately beginning to reshape its shape. Her armor softens first, the celestial weight of her breastplate dissolving into something merely decorative. The unyielding metal that had guarded her path was being recrafted by the heavy atmosphere of the world she had fallen into. What remained was a garment of surrender, a clinging, fragile lace that framed her as a trophy of a forgotten war. The softness of her form revealed, confessed her humanity to a world that had been waiting to see the woman beneath the legend. Her wings remained, those violent, aching spans of violet, dark as a fresh bruise on the skin of heaven, but their terror had been bled out of them. They were beautiful now in the way a caged bird is beautiful, decorative, symmetrical, toothless. The glitch-light of this hollow world crawled over her skin with the familiarity of uninvited hands, mapping her edges not to worship her, but to price her. This realm does not seek to crush divinity, but to gallery it. It was a slow, shimmering execution by aesthetic, turning her into a ghost of her own magnitude, a polished, consumable icon of a goddess, stripped of her sting and served up to a hunger that didn't want a savior, but a view. Goddess, what is this pit? The shoreline fractured into infinity, a gray, digital surf hemorrhaging against a beach of ground bone. Each wave broke with the hollow chime of a refreshing feed, a percussion of dopamine designed to mimic meaning, until the soul forgot how to tell the difference. As she walked, the ground shattered. Beneath her feet lay the literal architecture of extinguished worlds, skulls. Not symbols, but the calcium husks of every consciousness Yam had seduced into stillness. Every mind Lawton had coiled around until the why inside them was strangled into silence. Then the serpent rose. Lawton broke the surf with the glacial arrogance of a thing that has never known defeat. He was the primordial twitch of unmade chaos, the force that predates the first sentence of every story ever told to make the dark manageable. Great Mother, I beg you to name this void. This was the void that had swallowed her Baal, the great stormbringer, the architect of seasons, the rhythm of the rain, now reduced to a flickering ghost in the machine, unmade by a world that simply refused to hear his thunder. Great Mother, name this nullity. Name this profane Sheol. She was vaster than this, mightier than the soft, curated icon of bared skin and yielding curves this realm tried to carve from her. She raised her celestial light, and it flickered. A heartbeat of doubt. The terror wasn't in the descent, nor the crossing, nor the way Lawton's ancient, lidless eyes found hers across that beach of the unmourned. The horror was the whisper. It was the part of her made of wanting, the human sediment in her divine soul, murmuring that the sand was not so cold. That the digital surf was almost a lullaby. That perhaps this wasn't a Sheol of stone, but a sanctuary of dissolution. Rest, the tide hissed. Agree to be nothing. Then she screamed. It wasn't the scream of a victim, but the roar of recognition. She had heard this siren song in every war, at the lip of every Tartarus, the seductive gravity of surrender. She screamed and she swung, and in that arc of defiance the light stopped flickering. It ceased to be a lamp and became a brand. It became what it had been before the first myth was ever whispered. A weapon. Read Erosophia.